Good evening. So I'll just continue on the tempo that His Excellency, the Ambassador Mukwita, has set. I don't want to bore you. As I was coming, and I came in this morning, I was thinking, now how do we link tourism and cultural diplomacy? And I was actually amazed to discover a lot of similarities. And just to begin with, we pick the center word culture, and those 4 pillars there represent the 4 pillars of our tourism product as a country. And you can see culture there, there's heritage, there's wildlife and adventure. That's what we market, but I'll be zeroing in on culture. And I'll tactfully, being what I am, the marketer, I'll tactfully squeeze in a bit of marketing about Zambia, because I think marketing, presenting a good image of the country is diplomacy. So that's the face of Zambia, what His Excellency talked about, a friendly nation. Zambia has been endorsed for many years as being one of the most friendly countries in Africa. And I need to be very diplomatic because I know His Excellency from Nigeria might actually challenge me. So I must actually, and I didn't bring the endorsements, but the endorsements are there, which have suggested that only Mauritius has beaten Zambia to being most friendly, apart from being most peaceful. And you asked the question, and today, before I talk about that, I was trying to find out why it's not coming up. But I'll tell you why. And I only discovered that today, Your Excellency. Why we are the most friendly people. Zambia is one of the few countries in Africa that has 72 dialects. 72 tribes, if you like. Even if you go to Nigeria, there will be 2, 3, 4 main ones. Kenya is the same, maybe Togo is the same. But for some reason, Zambia is like the melting point, 72. Now, if you ask the question, His Excellency, what language do you speak mostly? He doesn't speak his mother tongue. What language do I speak most of the time? The vernacular. I don't speak my mother tongue. And it's the same for most Zambians. And that's because along the way we just got confused. We got all mixed up. We got all intermarried. And because of the intermarriage, even our names are all confused. I have about 8 tribes in me. My wife too has 8 tribes in her. And my children, if you're using the square, you know what they are. So because I married a wife from another tribe, and she was already mixed, we never spoke vernacular, and the children were born, and the first language was English. So it's not uncommon to come to Zambia and find English. When you come to Zambia, you'll be welcomed in English. The street boys speak English. And that's what makes it the most friendly, because we do not notice foreigners. So actually, we are already impacted by cultural diplomacy. And that's why we carry the flag. That's why we have not fought. That's why we've never had civil war. And that's why we don't have things like terrorism. That's why we are a peaceful point. So I just thought I could introduce you to that aspect. And then, as we discuss culture, to let you know also that we have some very important cultural heritage products. Because of the numerous cultures, we also have a diverse cultural product. So there are some brochures which the team will distribute, but you will learn a bit more about us, that we've got more than 50 official traditional ceremonies. So you can attend a Zambian traditional ceremony almost every month or every weekend. And that's one of the intangible cultural heritage recognized by UNESCO. There are 3 of them now called Gule wa Mukulu, Makishi, and Moba of the Lenja people. But for the dates of the traditional ceremonies, you can pick them from our brochure, and I invite you to come and feast into one of the most diverse display of diverse cultures in among 17 million people. That's just some of the images, and it's amazing. You just never get tired. Those are the faces of Zambia. Now, LICAF, how we are contributing, and this is the point at which I need to say, in many ways, cultural diplomacy is like tourism. They have got a meeting point. At the point where tourism brings about the meeting of various peoples, and we do know, we used to have a program in my country, Excellency, remember, they came to stay. We do have a situation in Zambia where a lot of investors, sometimes we spend a lot of time attracting investment, and yet most investment actually is brought into our countries by people that came as tourists. They love the country. They never went back. And there are so many of them. The first lodge on the Zambezi River, just before the Victoria Falls, was put up by a gentleman who hails from the Parker family, the Parker pen. And he came as an instructor for microlights, some of them you'll see them. And he loved the country. And he set up a lodge which you can look up on the internet called Tongabezi. He died, may his soul rest in peace. He died last month. But he was it was a tourist who came and made a change, and he loved the country. And I think cultural diplomacy also, because of the meeting of the peoples, reduces conflict. And through tourism, through cultural diplomacy, we get to know a people. We get to understand that there are more similarities between us than differences. And that's why I have learned through this invitation, Your Excellency, I've learned that we need to pay more attention to our cultural tourism products, to culture as a tourism product, because they will achieve these other ends of bringing about peace. That is the festival, the cultural festival that has been running now for 6 years. This is the 6th year? 5 years. And we learned through interaction with Seychelles, the Victoria Festival. Now, it attracts, it's attracted up to 10 countries, and I invite you to attend in June this year, because you also get to see the mighty Victoria Falls, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, which is in Zambia. It's amazing how, I'll give an example, that through that cultural exchange, through a relationship that I built up with the then CEO of the Seychelles Tourism Board, a gentleman who actually the other year went to contend as Secretary General for the UNWTO, but he didn't make it. But because through that friendship, we have MOUs, and now we have exchanges of students going to learn tourism in Seychelles and working in Seychelles. And it's through cultural contact, through tourism. And that's some of the, so that's LICAF in pictures. It's one of the most colorful festivals. I think I did warn you that I want to do a bit of sailing. And I introduce you to the Victoria Falls. I know all of you have heard about it. How many of you have been there? Show of hands, please. I'm going to cry, I'm going to drop there. But I think the reason for my having come is here. You have to put the Victoria Falls on your bucket list, on your to-do list. Because we've already told you that Zambia is actually peaceful, it's friendly, welcoming. We don't even notice visitors. You won't be stuck with language. But our food, like Ambassador Mukwita mentioned, it's just among the best, because it's a hybrid of 72 tribes. We haven't even discovered it fully. So we invite you to come to Zambia, see me at the end of this presentation, because the Victoria Falls is 1.7 kilometers long. Imagine that, 1.7 kilometers long. We share it with Zimbabwe, but only 500 meters are in Zimbabwe, and 1.2 kilometers in Zambia. It's called the largest curtain of falling waters in the world. The largest curtain of falling waters, falling down 110 meters. And it is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And Zambia is also a bastion of wildlife. It's the cradle for wildlife. Our national parks are actually, one of them was declared sustainable eco-tourism park, the South Wangwa National Park, by the Secretary General of the UNWTO in 2017. That's because of the way it's been preserved. And so for authentic, unique, and game viewing and bird watching, you need to make a date to visit us in Zambia. And I know you did not know the fact that we have the largest mammalian migration in Zambia. And in October to January, we have 10 million fruit-eating birds. 10 million fruit-eating birds that migrate from the Congo, and they come to brood in Zambia at a small national park. We do get all the key medias from Japan, the BBC, the CNN to come and film that spectacle, because people are still studying why the migration. But these are also meeting points for people, because people come from all over the world. And when they take to the sky in the evening, it's a spectacle that's amazing. It's like an eclipse, because they cover the sky and it's dark. So we beat the wildebeest, although the wildebeest migration does take place in a small way in a national park called Liua, very close to where Ambassador Mkwita comes from. So we do have wildebeest migration as well for the young at heart. We're talking about profiling Africa. And, we Africans travel more than the Europeans in terms of going all over the world. Because the tendency sometimes is that there are so many places, because of what you've heard about Africa, maybe the negative disease, hunger. We probably haven't done much to sell our positive side of things. But you land in Livingstone at the Victoria Falls. You also land at the place which is known as the adventure capital of Southern Africa. Mind-blogging for the young at heart. Bungee jumping. Grade 5 whitewater rafting, like you've never seen anywhere else. Sunset cruises. Actually, our sunset cruises make for the most cultural interaction. Because I've watched this for so many years. People of all nationalities come and get to our sunset cruises. About 20 boats take sail on the Zambezi River for 2 hours. And then there's the beating of African drums when they've drunk the local beer and the champagne. And by the time they are coming back, they are all singing the songs and they are all hugging. And what could be so nice as that? And those are the boats. And then we have what we call the flight of the angels. Because when the first Westerners saw the Victoria Falls, he had no words. And he said these 2 words. He wrote in his diary. That was Dr. David Livingstone, a medical doctor, missionary. And when he first saw the Victoria Falls, now just over 200 years ago, he wrote in his diary back to the Queen of England, "This is by far the finest sight I have seen in Africa yet." And then he stood at a point which we now call the Livingstone Island, near where the Devil's Pool is. And when you Google the Devil's Pool, it's one of the top 10 natural swimming pools in the world. And it's been seen on Google by more than 20 million viewers. Because it's amazing, because it's right at the lip of the falls. So you can see some people. I've never gone in it, but I've done a few other things. But you look down 110 meters. And near that point at the Livingstone Island, he says, "Scenes so lovely, they must have been gazed upon by angels in their flight." And so we have called those microlights and the helicopter flights, we call them the flights of the angels. I invite you to come and experience the best adventure, the best experience of tourism fine tourism, adrenaline activities at the Victoria Falls in Livingstone, on top of seeing one of the 7 natural wonders of the world and going on some of those. Now, that's the face of Zambia. Brand names. Yes, we also preserve our villages and our culture, and we invite you to them. But there's also modernity. I think there was a question about technology, embracing technology. I wish I could have shown you, if I'd known, a video, a little clip of young Zambians who are actually making robots, and they attended this year the robotic contest. I think it must be saying the robotic. I have it on my phone. So these are young Zambians, and they are actually talking about robots, making robots, and they actually, I think, did they win something at the robot? But they were acknowledged. In fact, it was on what network? It was on BBC. Was it on CNN, BBC? BBC. So the extent to which we go is we got young minds. When we are in networking, I can show you something like that. But we've got incubators, technology incubators, and there's e-government in Zambia. You can actually apply for your visa online and pay online from your phone, and you get your visa in 2 to 3 days. You don't have to go to ambassador's place now and say, I want a visa to Zambia. So that's actually how far we've gone. And I think it's a big agenda to embrace high tech. I remember, Excellency, also that we were the first people to have TV in the sub-region. I think we had TV. Zambia was one of the first people, 1960-something, television. So yes, I think it's a very, generally, of course, we're not Germany, we're not the USA, but you'll find internet hotspots. You'll get some of the best Wi-Fi in every hotel. So that's a level. You'll find young people, our children, like other children, in terms of electronic toys or knowing how to fidget with technology. It's amazing, So those are some of the brands. If you're flying to Zambia, that airport is opening up for business at the end of this year. It's actually going to be one of the best airports, and we are renewing, or apart from all the roads are being done up. I think the money is being put by government to the right things, but the airports are also being done up. But so it's a country which is moving technologically, but we are also retaining our cultural identity because it's an asset. And we're realizing every day how much technology is an asset. This is how you come and see the Victoria Falls. Turkish just started flying, and our own Zambia Airways, which was actually one of the best airlines in Africa, but don't ask me, we just mothballed it for a while, but it's coming back now. That's why we're building the airports. I did tell you about Visa Online, and Germans don't need visa. Do they, Your Excellency? It's a visa on arrival, rather. Yeah, exactly, or online. And I think the whole of EU, because we want you to come. And in concluding, because we did some research, would like to wish you the best as you commemorate the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, and all eyes will fall again on the German capital. With your partners, we wish you the best. Thank you.